Welcome everybody to Bitcoiner's Guide. This is the show, the podcast that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. We are I'm Marcus, Big Sean Harris, and today we are joined by the Koodge News in the building today. Guys, how are your trades going?
Koodge, go ahead. How's your trade going, Koodge?
Still trading my time for the hardest money on earth. It's good, but I'm not getting they're not getting enough DMs. People asking me how my trade's going.
It must be a bear market still then if you're not getting those DMs.
Yeah.
Marcus, how's the trade going?
Yeah, trade, always trying to stack more, never stacking enough, of course, all the usual stuff. No, it's going good, man. I'm in Vietnam, enjoying life, and yeah, just watching the clown world get more clownier every day.
Hey, good.
I think we have lots to talk about.
Good morning, Vietnam. Marcus is there. So right before we got on, we were talking about Marcus. It's a late night for him right now out there. It's an early morning, just a little timestamp. Today is Thursday, June 29th, and it's 10:40 a.m. here on the East Coast. That's where I am. Marcus has fallen asleep before on me on Telegram, and so we gave him some coffee, some lightning coffee to stay awake. No, I'm sure. I don't know.
Dude, it's really good coffee, but I didn't get to take any to Vietnam. So Jose says he ships all over the world, but I think it's too much of a hassle for me to ship it down to Vietnam.
Yeah, no. He slid my DMs the other day and was like talking to me like we hadn't talked before. I was like, Jose, I know who you are. I almost blocked you because I thought you were a bot. I thought it was like a fake account. All right, but on to more important things. Koodge, man, we're glad that we finally got to get you on. You know, there's a lot of guests that sometimes just either your schedule or our schedules don't align. So you've been stuck in the fiat mines. So have we, and so we're glad that we were able to get you on. How's everything going, man? You know, what's going on in the world of the Koodge?
Oh, it was a bit chaotic for work and stuff on the fiat mines, but now I'm sitting at home relaxing and just getting ready to do another fiat job. So stacking and just watching my spending, I guess, at this point, just being very careful, wanting to hold those sats and just enjoying the price run here.
You better watch out. I might end up knocking on your door if you stay at home too long, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I gotta ask and get this out of the way because I don't know what the Koodge means. I don't know if I'm late to the party on why the Koodge, but it's a really cool name and I like saying it. And I don't know, like, where does this name come from?
Oh, that the name is just exactly that. It was fun to say. I felt like it was like a gamer tag. It just felt fun to say. And yeah, it's nothing special. The name itself is less thoughtful. It just sounded like the splooge, and I thought that was funny. But when I got this name,
And what's the splooge?
Exactly. I thought it was funny. Yeah. I wanted a name not to be taken too seriously while I learned Bitcoin. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, if I see your avatar, you know, like on Twitter, I always like recognize avatars, right? And I think you've had this avatar. I don't think you've changed it, have you? I mean, you.
I change it. I'm gonna try to do it once every halving, and I'm gonna try to find some artist in the Bitcoin community, and pay them to change it. And I'll pay the same sat price I paid for the first time. So that was the thing I wanted to do, is keep it a tradition. It's no NFT bullshit.
Cool.
It was just I wanted to contribute the hardest money to somebody else who's stacking and in the community.
Hey,
nice.
Shout out to Rusty. Nice. I don't know if Rusty made that one, but
Rusty's no, I don't think so. I don't remember the exact name. It was I'd have to pull it up real quick, but yeah, I got another pleb, and I made sure that I'm like, you got to be a maxi. I want to make sure that you're not tweeting a bunch of stuff, and I want somebody who would hold their coins. Yeah.
Okay, okay, Koodge. So why a maxi? Why does it have to be a maxi, man? Why are you so close?
Because I mean,
Why are you so
oh, yeah, so
close-minded, man?
close-minded. I don't know. I wanted somebody who was gonna hold their coins and somebody who understood what we were here for. And then I wanted somebody who was, in the depths of the bear market, who'd gone through everything
Yeah.
and kept true to their beliefs and didn't get lost along the way. I don't know if they were recently a maxi or anything. I just want somebody who understood what Bitcoin was and was here for the right reasons and would
What do you
contribute their.
do you think people become maxis faster if they come in today than let's say 4 or 5 years ago?
I don't know if they come in faster. I think a lot of people shitcoin. I think everybody can get tempted because they're already living on a shitcoin standard. They're dealing with fiat money. Their mindsets after the dollar gain, and they get sold a lot of like get rich quick. And I think the education's there, but I don't know if everybody's taking the time to learn it.
Were you
So
were you around 4 or 5 years ago in the Bitcoin world, or
so I came in before the 17 pump.
okay.
So I got in. I started reading. I read the white paper. Was the first thing I did, and it was because I was injured from work. I was sitting at home and listening to a podcast. They kept bringing up Bitcoin, and I'm like, okay, well, what is this thing? I'm going to go right to the white paper, and yeah, so I got into Bitcoin first, and then I saw the giant pump, and I got suckered in by all the alt madness, and then I did 2018. I was just completely getting wrecked by learning the hard way.
Yep.
It's like I could have stayed the path, but I had to deviate out and learn the hard way for a while.
So, okay, here's a question that I ask a lot of people, right? And it's funny because did you understand the white paper the first time you read it?
No, not at all. It took me a while to get it. Like I saw that okay, there's something here, but I was not someone who got it like right off the bat. I was like, okay, I'm trying to understand, but I understand there's something here. I'm a bit more left curve, but I was like, yeah, I see there's something here, but I'm not sure I understood all of it. It took me probably getting wrecked on shit coins and reading a bunch of books the whole time and going, okay, the money I'm spending on anything else, learning Bitcoin has been the most valuable thing I've done, but it took me my time.
Yeah, because I think I remember I'd spoke to you one time, Marcus, and you said the first time you read the white paper, you understood a lot of it, and when I first read it, I was like, I had basketball player mind. I was like, I don't know what is this. I don't understand any of this right here. I need someone to dumb this down for me a little bit, you know?
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't go to the white paper straight away. I think I was like in Bitcoin for a while, and just like you could shitcoining and stuff. It was like more when I started figuring out that like the like you always knew Bitcoin was the first, but you never really did that deep dive, you know. And once I started to, like really like trying to figure out, all right, let me just really start digging into this, and that's when I picked up the white paper. But then I was already like further, you'd already been studying it a little bit, and I don't know, yeah. I guess the white paper itself, at a certain point, it gets a little bit more complicated, but it's pretty doable. I could make sense of most of it.
I wish it was a bit more technical when I got it, and it took me a while. I had to learn a lot of things, and once I started reading a bunch of other books, I go back to the white paper and I'm like, oh, this makes sense. Now I understand why this was already here from the get-go. Yeah.
So you said that what got you to study it was you got injured on the job. Now, was that a sprained ankle?
Oh, I fell off a ladder into a basement.
Okay. I was just thinking about my job,
Oh,
right?
boy.
How do I normally get injured, right? Torn ACL, sprained ankle or something.
No, I was doing a residential construction. I fell off a ladder into a basement, and I spent
Into
couple weeks
into the basement.
Oh yeah, into the basement, into like all the piles and stuff.
So were you like
Oof.
on a roof? You were on a ladder that was on a
Oh,
roof?
I was
Probably
yeah, I
two
was like
floors.
I fell floor.
It was
So
in the basement.
yeah,
It's
I was
not
in the
on the
main
roof.
floor. I fell into the basement.
Oh,
Fell
so
down the
you were
floor.
on the main floor on a ladder
Yeah,
and you fell through the first floor and then fell and landed in the basement.
yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. Then I spent a week on the couch going, oh well, I'm gonna just sit, I'm gonna recover, I'm gonna listen to podcasts, get myself back. I was young, so I'm like, I'm gonna get myself back to work. I'm not gonna make a fuss about it.
Yeah.
And lucky I did, because I mean, I found Bitcoin right then and there. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out what this thing is and devote some
Do
time to
you
it.
do you remember what pointed you to Bitcoin at that point?
Yeah, it was a comedy podcast. I think the comedian was Dick Masterson. He was talking about it constantly, uh, and it was about like he was calling it complex math problems and stuff. And this was early, just before like 2017 ICO boom. And
Oh,
I was lucky because in that podcast, and it's kind of one of those things I'd wished most people got, was they asked like, what wallet do you use? And so when I got into Bitcoin, the first thing I was doing was loading wallets and self-custody, because I already knew like what wallet you use mattered. You know, you didn't want to be
right.
stuck with your coins on Coinbase. Yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah, back then, I mean, that was the first thing I touched, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Self-custody. I've been learning that lesson. You got to
Yeah,
make sure you
Yeah.
your coins, right? I think that is, if you don't, then they're not yours. That is literally the lesson we're learning, right? With prime trust going on right now and different things that have blown up over last summer, it's just like this is.
oh, it's terrifying. It's terrifying when you run into somebody and you find out they're into Bitcoin and they're like, "Yeah, I've got all my coins on Binance," and you're like, "What are you doing?" like, no, I'm gonna sit you down and we're just gonna load a couple apps and just do anything you can, but they don't know if they can trust you when they just meet you. So you're just like, oh no, please load something, get these things off.
So
But
what do you do? So I had a buddy literally last night who messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying Bitcoin." Right? He was like, what do you recommend? Blah blah blah. You know, Marcus and I talk about this a lot, and I gave him like, I was really hard kind of, and I was like, look, if I was like, I don't know if what I can really recommend. All I'm gonna say is if you don't self custody, then you're not actually buying and holding Bitcoin. So, and that was what I told him. And I said, if you want to learn that, I can help you get started on that path. But if you're not interested in self custody, then honestly, I'm probably not the right guy to talk to, you know, because there's all these ETF going on that are going to start up, and there's this like people just want to buy it and keep it on the exchange. And I just don't want to be a part of someone's Bitcoin journey, really, if that's as far as they're willing to go. And so I'm kind of getting pretty harsh with people now. And I don't know what do you do when someone comes to you and asks you, and someone says, "Hey, you know, the halving's coming up or whatever's going on. I'm thinking about buying Bitcoin. How do you handle that?"
the first thing I'd ask is like, okay, what wallet are you considering to use? Like I will go right for the wallet first before they tell me about their exchange, the shitcoin casino they want to play on, and anything else, their bad ideas that they're coming up with that they
Yeah.
got online. It's just what wallet are you looking at using?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to keep it on an exchange. And then I'll tell them, like, I have friends who I got them onto Bitcoin on the journey. I watched them hold their coins on an exchange and then disappear for an entire cycle, come back in 21 going, oh yeah, okay, how do I get in? And finding out that the exchange rugged them or that their coins got lost somewhere and they're going, well, what happened? And it's heartbreaking because
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do. The price has gone off and there's no way you can recover their position. And so I'm like, I don't want to watch someone else lose on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a lot of harsh love. I constantly bug people when they get in and they're holding coins on the exchanges or something. I'll be like, okay, pay attention. And I'm like, I'm here, I'm listening. And if I know like you're holding somewhere or doing something, I'll let you know some information as I see it. But yeah, I constantly go like, make sure you've got your self custody. I don't care where it is. Just make sure you've got it on your own and make sure you've got backups. Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus, what do you tell people?
Oh, it's been changing all the time, Sean. It's you know, like lately I don't tell people anything anymore. I went through this phase where I was like yelling it off the rooftops. I was that guy at my fiat job that like got my entire floor, you know, there's like shared spaces with different companies and stuff. And I was literally walking into like different people's offices, and they all knew I was that Bitcoin guy, and I was getting everybody on there. And like you said, Coach, a lot of people bought it on Binance or some other app, you know, they left it there, they forgot about it, or just lost it. You know, they lost their phone or changed their phone, or
Mhm.
you know, lost their Google Authenticator, and they were like, oh, I don't know how to get back in. All these practical questions and stuff, you know, and they're always like, when the price runs, it's always like, oh, I'm buying more. And then when it's going down, they're screaming, why is it going down? Or I sold it, you know, and I don't know. Lately, I've just been of the opinion that, you know, I'm just going to tell them, study Bitcoin. You know, I'm not giving any advice anymore. I'm not giving any price predictions. I'm not, you know, if you need to ask me if now's a good time, then you shouldn't be buying unless it's about learning, right? If you want to buy a little bit to learn, but don't go all in stupid if you're still asking me if it's a good time to buy, because you're gonna get wrecked. Even if you're buying the bottom, you're gonna get wrecked because the price is gonna run up and it's gonna go down, and then you're gonna sell again. Or, you know, like I've had people I dragged in like literally under a 10K and also above 50K. And like both groups are have just been like grief, you know. It's even the people that bought under 10K aren't like celebrating or telling me, oh, thank you so much, or anything like that. So I don't know. I don't advise people anything anymore. If they have questions, I'm more than happy to talk Bitcoin and give them all the advice and the warnings and stuff. But yeah, right now it's probably going to change again in a year. Right now, I'm not giving any advice.
You
That's
know what
where
I
I'm
think?
at currently.
You know, I think the issue is like when I talk about Bitcoin, I get so excited about it, right? And I'm like, this is the thing that can protect you from your government, you know, your government's printing currencies and your banks stealing from you or whatever, or freezing your funds or whatever that may be. And then it also protects you because as more people figure out what it is, then more people will make the switch to Bitcoin, and there's more adoption happening every single day. And then people get all excited, and you know, like even my buddy last night was like, "Oh, maybe I might buy more." Than I was like, "Dude, don't buy more than what you were thinking about." Like I literally told him that, and I was like, "Just buy," because I was like, if you buy Bitcoin and you're speculating on it, and it's money that you think you're going to need in 2 years from now, well, who knows? Like, yeah, we all think that Bitcoin's price is going to pump after the halving, but no one knows for sure. And so, what happens if the price goes down and you set aside money that you need in 2 years from now, then you're going to have to sell Bitcoin at a lower price than what you bought in. And so that's what I try to let people know is like those things can happen. And so what you want to do is buy the Bitcoin or get Bitcoin at a price that you are comfortable with, and not so much of your net worth where you feel like you're going to, if something bad happens, that you have to chip away when it's lower, right? So basically just treat it as your savings. Always add to it. You know,
Yeah.
don't take away from it, and just always add to it as you get paid. And as you do that, if you do that for a span of 5 years, 10 years, then you're gonna be very happy with the amount of Bitcoin you have. And I think it's just hard. Well, I don't know why. Why is that hard for us to get to that point? Like, why do we all want all 21 million coins?
Look, I think like price is important, right? But at the same time, whenever you talk to somebody about Bitcoin, the first thing they talk about is like price,
Yes.
or like, is now a good time to buy because when is it going up and when should I sell, right? Like that's just like tiring because I don't feel like having that discussion anymore, you know? It's just like Bitcoin is so much more. Yeah, price is super important, right? It's a fundamental part of the whole thing, but
Yeah,
what Bitcoin really solves is like it's fixing the money, right? And why are prices getting more expensive in fiat, right? That's what it's solving. But to get to that point, when somebody comes at you like, it's now a good time to buy, can you tell me about Bitcoin? They're still so far from where they need to be. You know, it's a long journey and you got to put in the work. And I don't know how to get people to that point, but I'm
I
just
wor-
not. Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I was gonna say I
Go
worry
jump
that
in, coach. Yeah,
I'll just jump all over. Sorry
yeah.
about that. No, I feel like that's like living in fiat. It's so uncertain and everything, and these people are just looking for that tip, that help. they're looking for something, and they don't realize that the price is the most uncertain part about Bitcoin. The certainty is the issuance and the way it's slowly getting more and more harder to acquire and more expensive to make. And yeah, I find like the biggest flaw for me is somebody will come in and they've got like an interest in Bitcoin, and they're so excited, and you're like, oh yeah, this is finally I get to orange pill somebody, and then they ask you a stupid question like that, you're like, oh, I have to like jump back and explain how mining works or something very simple. Much like how do you know the coins are there? You're like, what? Okay,
Yeah.
I have to go back and start all over again, and you got your
That-
whole, yeah, or what's the price?
Or they send you a link about like quantum computing is going to break Bitcoin, right? Like, what have you seen this, Koodge? What do you think? What do you think of this?
Oh yeah, every time it's like, well, your bank is screwed. Your bank
Yeah.
can your bank is screwed first. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's two important things, right? Like when you look at like price is important because that's what incentivizes us to get more of it, right? Like at least in the Western world where our banks aren't failing us today, you know,
Mhm.
in other countries is like the incentive isn't just the price, it's also to protect yourself from your government or your bank stealing your wealth or from other things, right? Or from some random country taking over your own country, and then you have to leave your country and you need your wealth with you. And so I think there's a lot of incentives, but for most of us that live in the West, the incentive is the price because
Price.
that's what's going to get us to learn about it and understand it, because we're like, okay, this price thing. But I think what like the speculators who don't treat Bitcoin as savings, they treat it as this tool to trade in and out of, they're trying to time everything, which is impossible in the Bitcoin with Bitcoin. I think just a thought that I've been having a lot lately is just don't be afraid to work for your wealth, like don't be afraid to work hard. A lot of people are shying away from working hard and they want the get rich quick scheme, and they want the get rich the fix, like the easy fix, and they want to be free from work. But work is good for you, work, it challenges you, it develops you, you become better and stronger and more disciplined as you do work hard, and as you sweat for your work, and you like Bitcoin is
Yeah,
of work, and so I think just don't be afraid to work hard for your wealth, because that's what you have to do. If there was no Bitcoin, or if there is Bitcoin, you still have to work hard for your money.
that's it's a big one. And like I like to say is like Bitcoiners really push you to be a better person. And that's one of those messages that like struck with me, even though I had been in Bitcoin for a long time. I was kind of in a job where I just didn't know what I was doing anymore. I didn't feel like I was providing very much. I was on Twitter a lot more than I should have been. And I was like, okay, this is probably a sign. But it was because like the message of provide value. And you go out and you go provide value to your community, to your groups, doing work and working hard, and you get rewarded for it. And that's an important part of being Bitcoin. You're not just trying to get rich and sit by the pool. The idea is you want to continue to provide value to your world so that you can be in a better position to continue to provide value when the fiat system gets even more unstable and more chaotic. You're there as a strong pillar in your community. So yeah, I feel like the Bitcoiners really pushed me to go back and, and keep going and get a better, like go getting better work, do better things, and look at your own life too, get better health, all these things. The Bitcoiners really are pushing you to try to be better, because better you are, the better you will be in your community and in the Bitcoin community.
Yeah, I mean, even
I love that part, Coach. Is like, did Bitcoin, can you name any like concrete things of how you changed your life if you want to talk about it at all? But like for example, for me, like you mentioned the gym, right? Like that, like taking care of your health was definitely, I mean, I was always into sports, but I think that definitely played a role. Also, like the whole political spectrum, the way you look at politics, it changed a lot for me. Yeah, so I'm curious, like Bitcoin changes you, you don't change Bitcoin, but
Oh,
I'm always fascinated by that. Like, can
I
you
think
speak on that?
yeah, I think when it was like for the gym and stuff, it became much more like you're concerned about your longevity. You're caring about, like, you would hear people going and complaining that, oh, they got injured and it took them out for like a couple months.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, maybe I'm not going to just, I want to make sure that I'm healthy and that I'm going to take my time. I'm not trying to rush anything. I want to do the work and I'm going to do it the right way. It became very, very low time preference when it came to taking care of myself, eating well. That became a big thing. I started looking for what I was consuming. Yeah, that was big. Sorry, you mentioned one more and I completely blanked on it.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah, politics. I mentioned
politics. Oh
politics
yeah,
as
I
well.
just, yeah, it really, I think still Twitter is a bit of a curse for it, but is how you guard your time, as Sailor said. Politics, I just don't waste any time with anymore. I don't pay any attention to it. I know that it's going to screw me one way or the other, but I'm not, like, I have a child, and when you uh you're making them make a tough choice, you're going, would you like to have this now or later? But they're still getting what they still get the bad choices. I think anchoring, you're like, oh, would you like the broccoli now or after? And they're still getting the broccoli. And that's why I see politics is you're just getting a bad choice either way, but you have to make one of them. So I don't waste my energy there anymore. And Twitter being one of those things is I try to like avoid the was it like pop culture news of the day and try to avoid like devoting too much attention to that. Like when that boat got stuck in the Suez Canal, I had people who were suddenly boat experts and telling me about how they got it all
The
stuck and how the
evergreen.
engineers are going to fix it. This is, how did you spend that much time learning about this when I know that you've never been involved in this? And then they would tell me, I'm sorry, they'd tell me that the beef price is going up because this boat stuck in a canal. And I'm like, the cow didn't get on a boat.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because you look at like the younger. I've been, with this job that I'm doing, I'm hanging around a bunch of Zoomers all day, right? Well, and so all these Zoomers, the younger generation, it seems like a lot of these guys, they've become experts on, whatever new topic is going on, right? The current thing. And so like when I was, and I'm only 33, but when I was 20, dude, like I wasn't an expert on politics or anything like that. Like I didn't know much about politics or the new topics. And so it's interesting how social media has played this role where it's almost like making, we used to say, oh, I don't know anything about that, right? Politics, I don't know much about that. And I don't know whether that's good or bad, who knows, right? But like nowadays, everyone is educated and an expert, whatever that means, on every little topic out there because of social media. And then they have to create an opinion and form an opinion on every little thing. And I think it's just the ultimate psyop to keep us distracted from how we're getting stolen from every single day, and that is just like the ultimate thing we're getting stolen from. We don't need to know about every little thing that's going on about about the Titanic, submarine and all this other crap. Like, why don't we focus on the matters that are truly important? But yeah, so kind of going back into it, I just think
So it's making me think of RFK. I don't know. So it's been bugging me. It's been bugging me a little bit. Robert F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
He's. I mean, I don't know if it's a good idea for me to start on this.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
At some point, it's like, okay, so he comes on the Bitcoin conference, right, and he says some positive stuff about Bitcoin, but it's still a guy who's trying to run for president, trying to change the system from within, you know.
Yeah.
So I have very little. I mean, I like what he's doing. Obviously, I agree with his Bitcoin take, and I'm always a little bit skeptical because he's a politician, and politicians are going to do their politician things, right? By nature, there are people who, yeah, think they are the ones that can change stuff, and to me, then you already like lost me a little bit. But
Well, yeah, if he's trying to run for state, he still says that the state has all the power. And it's like, well, I
right.
mean, if Bitcoin wins, is the state going to have as much power? But
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but then it gets even worse because then, you know, he shows up like standing in his jeans, shirtless, and now everybody's freaking out. Like, oh my God, this guy's 77 or whatever his age is, and he's buff. Here's my vote, you know? And it's like, come on, guys. Like, what the hell, you know? I'm so afraid, you know, it's like we all like at one point Bitcoin Twitter is there, like, you know, look at everybody following the current thing. But then every time when there's like a new US election, everybody jumps on the one other sides again and starts, you know, it's like it's impossible not to jump on that train. Instead of like people are just like, forget this, you know, opt out, I'm buying Bitcoin, you know, I'm not voting for either side. Everybody just ends up getting into this culture war of red versus blue or left versus right or Biden versus Trump or anti-Trump and now RFK again. And to me, it just hijacks so much attention from what we should be spending our time on. It's just frustrating to me. But anyway, it's just one of those things. You mentioned it, you know, like we spend a lot of time on Twitter and all the current things to me. That reminded me of RFK, what's going on there right now.
it's definitely something even I'm still working through. Like every time I'm on Twitter, you'll see a good meme and you'll see like things, you're like, am I pushing this conversation? Because this is not really helping anything. You see a submarine joke and you're like, oh, this is good, but should I be pushing this around?
At the same time, I don't know if we should take everything we do and see on Twitter too seriously anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Twitter, I used to do a lot of research in the Netherlands, but like the stats of Twitter is about like around 15% of people in pretty much every country use Twitter, right? And that's just people that use Twitter. So like 85% of the population does not use Twitter. So we're already in a bubble just being on Twitter. And then within Twitter, there's Bitcoin Twitter, right? Which is a subsection of crypto Twitter, in my opinion. I mean, if you just look at raw numbers, there's way more crypto people than Bitcoin people. So whatever we are seeing and discussing with ourselves, of course, like there's this core part of the Bitcoin community that lives on Twitter. So there are some, you know, debates forming there and stuff. But at the same time, you know, it's like then in that corner of Bitcoin Twitter, there's like meme Twitter, and you know, like you've got the toxic maximalist Twitter and stuff. So it's all very tiny. I don't want to believe that we are changing that. You know, that what we are doing, and if I retweet something that's making a big deal or impact, I just don't buy that. So for me, at least, like Bitcoin Twitter is it's a mix, right? Of like what's going on in the Bitcoin world, what is the news, what are the memes, what are the jokes, and what's like the infighting that's going on. So, I mean, it's mostly entertainment, right? It's like you're living in a real life movie. You're following the news, and at the same time, you get to comment on it, and you get to like talk with people about it. But yeah, is that how you see it as well, or are you? I mean,
I find like Twitter is just a place to get surface level understanding. You're never going to understand anything deeper, but it can give you a lot of the resources to go further. And I find like that when Bitcoin pumps, that's when you get all the experts on Bitcoin. Suddenly these new experts that come in and they're going to tell you all this crazy stuff. And it's like, maybe some of them will get some signal and point it in the right direction. But yeah, there's a lot of people that get just diverted into shit coins or even just scammers, and it's really sad to watch that. But for me, it's just somewhere to go get a quick understanding of what's going on, make fun of it, and kind of get a good idea as to where the fighting's going on. But yeah, I even found that in the last little while here, there's a lot less technical fighting happening. There's less debates on the technicals of Bitcoin. I don't know if that's moved over to Nostr or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that something that you like, the technical stuff?
I liked watching those kind of things and learning how those debates were happening. I like to see that. I found that very interesting. So maybe I have to move to somewhere else to go watch that and learn more, because I'm not done learning.
Right. Yeah, and
So
I think a lot of stuff is also happening on like Lightning and Arc. And, there's all these like layer 2, layer 3 developments going on. I mean, there's the ordinal stuff, of course, Taproot.
Oh yeah.
so do you have, okay, Marcus, you might as well ask the question, man.
I think he answered it already, right? Like he's in construction,
Oh yeah.
maybe like engineering. I don't know, like
Uh,
building stuff.
yeah, I do project controls, so like cost and schedule for construction companies. So I'm somebody who spent his entire life watching the money in construction and counting and making sure it all was accounted for and watching time. So you kind of sit and look at numbers all day. Bitcoin was just like the natural recipe. You'd find it. And so I'm in oil and gas, which has booms and busts. And when it has
Yeah,
busts, you get bored. And suddenly you're online and going, wait, what's this Bitcoin thing? And for me,
yeah. So
in
for
one of
you,
those,
reading a graph is natural for you. You don't get scared when you see a graph. You dig in deeper.
oh, I dig in deeper. I like to make my own charts and figure things out as well and kind of track data. I like doing that kind of stuff. So Bitcoin gives you just like an insane open collection of of data points, and you can kind of figure out for yourself a lot of stuff because it's all open and auditable. So I find that incredible, and that was other than becoming a Glassnode person, like you become somebody who wants to like actually dig in. I think the Glassnode people are there in the same kind of sense, but they want it spoon fed. And I'm like, oh, you can get this all from your node. You can kind of look and try to figure stuff out. So I like that kind of stuff, and that just attracted me to Bitcoin.
Okay, that's super interesting. So and since 2017, so you're also there when like Plan B came out with his
Oh
stock
yeah,
to flow model, and we've seen different frameworks around, like Bitcoin and the types of data you can get off the blockchain and where it's going and what's driving price, what's the role of the halvings, right? And
yeah.
what is a total addressable market, you name it. So I'm curious from your what's been your take on it? Like how have you been framing it in your head, or
Okay, so
what and yeah, so what drives stuff and where is it going in your mind, or what?
okay, well, the way I kind of see it is scarcity is the driver. So every time the halving happens, it's I think Coin Nicarus or
Yeah.
there was somebody who put out a brilliant chart on it where that like there are the constant stackers, and as the supply suddenly starts to reduce,
I
you
think
start.
that's Crucis.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I can see that the avatar. I couldn't remember. I knew it started
yeah.
with a C. Um, yeah, he has
Even though he
that
just changed his avatar and his handle, I believe, right? It's he basically fully
oh, for
doxed
his
himself
name.
now.
Yeah,
Jesse
Alex.
Meyer, is that his
Jesse
name?
Myers.
Oh,
Jesse
that's
Meyer.
right. Just Myers. Yeah.
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 So yeah, he has an incredible graphic on. I think that drives a lot of the that post halving, and then I think you've got your miners become sellers, and as you go into the halving, mining just keeps once the price goes down, you've got your miners suddenly start accumulating as well, and then you end up in a situation where the price kind of levels off. But for me, I always see it's scarcity is the driver, and you've also got the miners being somebody who have to sell at some point because they're still consuming energy, and a lot of times it's greed can also come in play. But now that there's bigger mining things, I don't know, maybe things will change. These big mining farms, I don't know. It's very interesting to watch, but it's
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting. You want to jump in, Sean? Go
Okay,
ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I think that's what we've been saying. Like, it's funny because there's so many models that we're trying to do to wrap our mind around how Bitcoin works, and it's just like I think the easiest model, maybe like the most simplest model, may be the correct one, which is just follow the halvings, right? Like literally just follow the halving, and everyone tries to make their own models of how it'll work and put a price to it or put a time to it. And to me, it just kind of makes sense. The more simplistic way is just follow the halvings. And as the halvings continue to happen, Bitcoin gets more scarce. And as it gets more scarce, then the price goes up because people start to realize, well, first of all, demand can stay the same and the price will go up. And so whether that's, miners, there might be some miners that blow up, right? And they have to sell their Bitcoin because they're running out of money, or there's other miners that have prepared themselves very well, or they're okay to mine at a loss, or whatever it may be, right? So there's just so many different things. And then you have exchanges that go bust and they have to sell. So there's a lot of different factors that play into it. And it just seems like it always works out to make Bitcoin more decentralized, to give power back to the individual, power back to the people who have no voice. The home mine, like you can still mine Bitcoin from your home. And I think that's so cool, right? Like there's still, peer-to-peer exchanges are really cool exchanges out there. And those rarely blow up because you're not storing any they're not storing any Bitcoin for you. And I think there's like all those cool things about how the halving will attract people in. People will try to build these fiat businesses on top of Bitcoin. They may blow up, and then you kind of get leveled back into a reality of, okay, well, what is Bitcoin really? Like, and I think that's what we're all trying to do is, or at least some of us are trying to do, is figure out what is Bitcoin, like the dollar aside, the euro aside, all the fiat aside, what is this thing that is Bitcoin that we're trying to figure out? And I think it's like, it's the most defined is by the halving cycles. That is literally Bitcoin to a T.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a case where people are just slowly understanding it, and you never know when it's going to click for someone, and they'll lump sum in, and there's those coins are gone forever. Once somebody understands it, they start holding on and they don't want to let go. And so it doesn't matter what model you have in this world, you never really know when somebody suddenly clicks on and suddenly sends the message that makes a whole bunch of other people understand.
Yeah, like when like Sailor, for example, right? Like, and we thought in 2020, after Sailor started buying, oh, there's gonna be when's the next Sailor? And there are the Paul Tudor Jones out there, there's the Bill Millers out there that are billionaires, right? But not as like, but they have allocated a portion of their wealth to Bitcoin, where Sailor's like all in. And so it is kind of interesting because the plebs, a lot of us plebs are doing that. We're going all in, and or more than 50%, whether you own a home or not, right? And so it's really interesting to watch a guy like Sailor do this, and it almost makes you just wonder, like, will there be another guy? Like, will there be another Sailor, or is he just one of a kind?
Dude, I think we all had our kind of aha moment in Bitcoin where it suddenly clicks for us. Like I saw it as first a trade, then something to acquire a little bit of, and it was a hedge. And you think of it as like something to hold, just a small amount. But then when you have that aha moment, you go like, oh, this is different than anything else in the world. And you have those panic attacks. You're like, well, as soon as anybody else figures, either I'm crazy and I've lost my mind,
Yeah.
or I've figured something out that everyone else should already have seen. How did I get so lucky?
Yeah.
You have that moment of like, I just got to get as much as I can and hold it.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like that's coming for everybody once they kind of start dabbling in Bitcoin. They'll start to hit that moment.
Exactly that moment. For me, I always was like, wait a minute, like not holding Bitcoin is the risky part, right? It's like in the beginning, you're like, oh, I'm putting money in Bitcoin. Oh, it's going up and down. I might lose this stuff. And then at a certain point, you're thinking, wait a minute, if I leave money in the bank, I might lose all that money. So I sleep better at night having it in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I honestly, it takes a while before people get there, obviously.
For me, it was Pierre Richard's savings technology, because it was, oh, I'm buying Bitcoin. Oh, you're buying Bitcoin, as like you were buying something to own. And suddenly it was, no, it's savings technology. This is something you were saving and saving your energy in. And it just switched my mindset completely. Like, no, this is something that is here for me when I need it. Whereas my bank might not be here for me if I give to the wrong, donate to the wrong political thing, or you know, even in post sense, something I say could suddenly get my banking turned off, has that potential. That might not be there for me.
Yeah, like that one guy in the UK that just happened this morning, that Nigel, whatever his last name is. He's
Nigel Farage.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
he's
He's
literally
the UK. He was the guy who basically got the UK to step out of
Brexit.
the
Yeah.
Eurozone, Brexit, right?
Yeah, and he's literally has all of it. His bank came to him and said, "We're shutting your bank account down and your business bank account down." He's banked with them for 30 or 40 years, and he's committed no crime. He's asked why. They said they were going to tell him why. Then they just came and said, "No, we're just shutting your bank accounts down." And then he reached out to 7 different other banks in the UK, and no one would open up a bank account for him. And he's just like he's like got 3 different possibilities of why they would be doing it, but he has no clue, and no one will give him an answer why he can't open up a bank with a bank account with another bank, and why his current bank is shutting him out. And it's pretty crazy, because you could be a millionaire, multimillionaire, which I imagine this guy is, and if your banks just shut you off, then you essentially you're living in poverty, because you can't pay any of your bills. There's nowhere for you to store your money or store your wealth, and if there was no such thing as Bitcoin, right? And so it just makes you very thankful for something like Bitcoin, because even this could happen to anybody for any reason, and the more money you get, the more you're captured by the state if you only custody your money with the banks, which in essence are ran by the government, because they have their compliance laws that they have to follow with whatever jurisdiction they live in. So it's pretty insane that that's happening.
So I see this kind of stuff as an advertisement for Bitcoin again, right? Just like with the truckers protest in Canada, that wakes people up, like, what the hell, like people can just shut you off. But I'm cute. That's kind of where I was going with that question just now, Koodge. Is like, there's this framework of like, okay, what drives the price and stuff. But if we all agree that the price is going to go up because of the halvings, and more and more people will start figuring it out and they start adopting it, like, how do you see that playing out? How will Bitcoin change? Do you subscribe to like the super cycle, or that Bitcoin, everybody's going to own Bitcoin? Or like, do you have any idea in your mind what's going to happen in the next 3 years, 5 years, or 15 years?
I wish I knew 3 to 5, 15 years.
And I'm not talking price, right? I'm just talking like
the adoption wave. I think we're starting to see that kind of like we're probably where home computers were in the early 90s, where now most people are starting to get into it, and the network effect is starting to take over. And I do think there's going to be an S curve kind of moment. I was making fun of super cycle like right as soon as it was pitched, because I called it the hyper wave of the bull market, because these people were just selling some belief that they knew where the price was going to go and adoption was going to go. I think, it's going to take some pain, but I think people are going to suddenly run to Bitcoin when there's kind of a shoe drop moment for everybody, and you never know when that could happen. That a penny drops and everyone goes, "Oh, okay, wait a second, I understand Bitcoin." I'm in Canada, so I had seen a lot of people when that trucker protests happened take either side, but the people that were kind of on the pro protest side were suddenly going, "Oh, well, I need to figure out what this Bitcoin thing is," and I saw a lot of people get pilled pretty quick. A lot of groups suddenly start holding it, just because it was the idea of, well, you didn't see your banks act that way ever before. And even people who had no qualm, were not going either way, saw their bank suddenly freezing accounts for people, and they were going, well, maybe there's some security in something outside of where we are, and maybe I wouldn't invest in some country. Maybe there's people looking at it from the outside going, I'm not going to invest in this country because they could shut off and take my property. So I think those kind of moments can happen. We saw Cyprus, we saw all kinds of things. Oh, did I freeze?
No, you're
still there.
Oh, okay. We've seen all those kind of moments, and it's not until one kind of affects you or comes close that suddenly it's for you understand it. Yeah, that's the for me, it was watching a lot of comedians getting canceled in 16, 17. And
Yeah.
you watch them say a joke and suddenly they're getting kicked off the stage. And it was kind of like, oh well, or even an allegation was thrown at them, and suddenly they had to fight it and were on defense, and the banks could suddenly stop the transactions to them. So that kind of stuff was like clicking for me. But maybe I miss Cyprus, I miss all these other events. And so I was just ready for it. And so I think at some point these events can happen to everybody and they'll adopt.
Yeah, I mean, I remember Kevin Hart, right? Kevin Hart was gonna host like the Grammys or the Emmys or something like that back in probably 2018 or 2017. And he had made a joke on Twitter or something like in 2011. And it was like, oh, could you imagine if my kid was gay? What would I do? Blah, blah, blah. And it was a joke. And then he apologized for the joke in like 2013 or 2014. Well, then it got resurfaced when he was going to host the Emmys, and like a couple years after he'd already made an apology, and he was like, I'm not going to apologize again. I've already apologized for this joke once. Like, I'm not, like, how many times do I have to apologize? And then they just said, no, you're not hosting. And he was like, screw it, I don't need to host it then, you know? But I think that's someone who, he'll be fine in the fiat world until fiat goes through hyperinflation. But for regular people who don't have that luxury and who are probably in the silent majority, when you say something that you don't even realize could get you canceled or could lose your job, you want to make sure that you do have, or lose your bank account, you want to make sure that you have wealth that's saved aside. I just think that people don't see enough of these things that happen. Like, I'll still talk to people about the trucker protest in Canada here in America, and they won't even know about it. They won't know that Canadians had their bank account shut down by the government for protesting. Like, there's so many people that don't even know about that stuff. And I think the less people that see it, or they go, okay, well, that happened to them, that won't happen to me. And like the same with this Nigel guy in the UK, that happened to him, but it won't happen to me because, I trust my government and they would never treat me that way. He must have done something wrong, And so you don't see enough people that go, like, I don't know what it is. I don't know why people don't care. Like, why, like, when you bring these subjects up, people are just apathetic to it and they don't care about keeping their own wealth. And I'm not sure what the reason why is.
It's like, yeah, it'll never happen to me. I have a friend who I always bring up all like the stories of Lebanon, and
Yeah.
I have friends in there, and I'll bring another friend and I'll talk, and he goes, "Oh, that's just Lebanon." And it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, like it could happen here. You never know. Like you need to be aware of these things. And it was worse than just freezing your bank accounts in Canada. They froze their assets too, like
Yeah.
stocks, bonds, all those kind of portfolios. There are the retirement accounts. Everything was frozen for them during this event. So it's like it was a really big like orange pill moment, being like, this is the only thing that can't be frozen in an
Yeah.
event.
Watching people going into banks with guns to steal back their own money that the bank was seizing from them, right? It's like, it opens your eyes. And I think it just goes to show, I know a lot of people that don't travel much. And so when you say, oh, it can never happen here, it's like, dude, those countries aren't that much different than our countries are. Like, they're not that much different, And so there's people who have ideas, there's banks, there's central banks, there's governments that they think are set up to protect them. There's all these different things. And so they're not that much different than where we are. Yeah, maybe we have more influence, more power, more money, but we're going through these inflationary waves in the same way that they are as well. They're just getting inflation at a higher degree right now, and we're headed that way. And so it's just foreshadowing of where we're going to be in the future. And so, but again, yeah, people just, I don't know. I honestly don't know why people lack the foresight to see what's coming down the pipeline.
Well, I like to say all it takes is one bad election. Because that a lot of people that didn't side with the Brexit or didn't want Trump or didn't want Biden, and now they're upset. It's like, all it takes is one bad election and everything can change for you. You never know in the fiat system and with the politics. in one bad election, everything could be different. So
Yeah.
it can never happen to you until suddenly somebody, the wrong person, suddenly gets the keys. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a lot, and we've actually covered quite a few things. We actually saw about how we normally have 3 questions at the end, and I think we answered one already, is how you see hyper Bitcoinization playing out. Two more questions for you before we let you go. What
Okay.
did you read or listen to?
Three more questions.
No, because you already
You don't
answered.
get to you don't get to decide all 3. I got a new question. I'm gonna add in a new question.
Do you want that question to be, where do you want that question to go, Marcus?
At the end.
Okay. Good. Okay, so what did you read or listen to that made you finally swallow the orange pill?
It, I wish it was the Bitcoin Standard. It was definitely a podcast before. I watched an interview with Serfdom in front of like golden doors, and he was talking about the Bitcoin Standard, and I was like, okay, I want to know what the economics of Bitcoin is. I read the Bitcoin Standard, and I'm like, this is incredible, but I need more. And it wasn't until I read Road to Serfdom that I was like, okay, shitcoins are screwed. The system that we live in is constantly centralizing, and it is just here to take. It's just going to keep expanding and growing, and we need something to fight that. It was the Road to Serfdom had to have been the thing that orange pilled me.
By Hayek?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then I start digging into the Austrian economics, and I think that's a worthy thing to do.
I haven't read that book. Can you pull out something that stood out?
I definitely read it in like 18 or 19, so it's pretty. But a lot of it was about like how the government was going to keep getting involved in greater and greater ways and giving themselves constant more and more power. And
Right.
I kind of saw that as like these shitcoin foundations. A lot of them are slowly giving themselves more and more power when anything happens. Like suddenly ETH would have that attack, and they'd suddenly fork and do that kind of stuff. And it was like, well, okay, these shitcoins are setting themselves up in the fiat way, that when shit hits the fan and it hurts their incentives, they'll just change the rules so that they have more and more power. And
Yeah. It would seem that, the road to serfdom does happen by more and more centralization. Powers get centralized into the few hands, because then you have no rights of ownership. And that's what Bitcoin provides, is that freedom and personal property rights, where you actually get to own something that no one can take from you, no matter how hard they try, even if they kill you, And so it's the first time we've had something that powerful before.
yeah, sorry, I got a rough interpretation of the book. But I definitely recommend reading it for yourself and seeing it, and kind of, yeah, it was worth the time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna dig into that one. I don't even hear a lot of people talk about that book. For some reason, it's completely off my radar.
It was
The
in
Road to Serfdom.
I think it was in the appendix, or it was referenced in Bitcoin Standard, and that was how I found it. I went, okay, well, what is he basing this on? And I was like, I got to dig a little deeper before I just trust.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked a
The
lot
second question.
Second question. And Marcus has got the cleanup question. So we've talked a lot about how Bitcoin is this amazing thing, how it's this solution to a terrible problem called fiat, which we're all subject to. But what if we're wrong, Koodge? We have to be rational. We have to understand that we are fallible as humans, and that we can be wrong. And so what do you see as the greatest threat to Bitcoin?
Apathy. I think the greatest threat to Bitcoin is apathy. There's a lot of people who just don't care, and they'll be willing, if it became a majority, or like if the whole world stopped caring, Bitcoin could be changed. I think that risk is kind of long term. Like if down the road our message isn't kind of the consensus, the understanding of why these things that were done were important, and future generations come into Bitcoin don't understand why, they may be willing to be fooled into, increase the cap, increase the supply, do something silly,
Yep.
And while there may be a few that will refuse and will keep Bitcoin actually true, there's just that big risk that a large number of people will change it. But I think it has to be like a global apathy, because as long as one node is running, or one or two nodes are running the right way, it's gonna be hard to beat the old the economics driving Bitcoin. But yeah, I think apathy is the biggest thing. And then you kind of go and say, oh, the toxic maximalists, these people on Twitter who are just hammering their keyboards every day and attacking the shitcoiners, and they're just not being open-minded. It's like, no, they are being they are there keeping the light on. They're guarding that fire, and it's they're protecting that message from being corrupted. And so I think the only risk to Bitcoin is if that message gets corrupted and people start to become apathetic and don't care. And maybe that's year 2140 post or further down the road. But if future generations do not see and understand why we did the things we did and why it was important, you just get back onto fiat.
That's spot on, man. The day that Bitcoin turns into a fiat because people change the rules, that's the day that Bitcoin dies, right?
But yeah, I mean, like I took a month away from some Bitcoin Twitter, and it was easy to do. I could turn it off and go ahead and go to work, and I could still keep holding Bitcoin and sleep at night because I knew that there were the maxis, the plebs online who were just as devoted to Bitcoin as I was, who were running the nodes. And it was like, I don't have to worry that tomorrow somebody's going to try to politically attack Bitcoin and everybody's going to get fooled. I don't need to worry and defend it, but I'm going to still keep doing that because it's, but when I took a month away, it was like, oh, I know that there are these people out there who care just as much as I do. And I know there's the apathy it's not there.
Awesome. Mark.
Well said, man. All right, the final question. And my final question is more around like Bitcoin Twitter, right? I mean, you found us, we found you, we're all there together, hanging out, we're memeing, you know, either lurking, listening, watching the discussions, or participating in it. What would you advise or tell somebody who's just coming into Bitcoin Twitter? You know, like, how do you navigate Bitcoin Twitter? What kind of tips would you give somebody? And what do you use it for? Or, you know?
I'd say if you first find Bitcoin Twitter, start listening. You don't want to just jump in and jump into the conversation, because you'll just get attacked and you won't know why. Start by listening, start by reading, and reach out. DMs are open for a lot of people, and especially when the bear market's in its depths and it's quiet, you can reach out to people and ask them for references, resources, and things, and you'll further your own understanding. And it is an incredible tool. But if you stay out on the outside, you'll just kind of get a surface level understanding. And I recommend kind of reaching out to people. There are all kinds of groups, and I was lucky to kind of find group chats and stuff, and that you get to kind of know the people that you're with, and the people's, you shape your understanding, you understand kind of what's happening. I find like if you're on Twitter, you get a really quick, it's like having a floodgate open of information, and it's very hard to kind of filter through it and get the noise from the signal. But if you spend enough time and you sit quiet and read and learn, suddenly the signal becomes very easy to filter, and you can start kind of figuring out where resources are to learn more. So if I was new to Twitter, definitely open up a DM, somebody who you think is shaping your view, and just ask them, what books are you reading? What things could you recommend? I'm still new in this journey. Anything you can teach me.
Yeah, well said, man. I think, you know, finding some people to hang out with, right? You mentioned like group chats and stuff. It's always good, because in real life, you're not going to find a lot of people to talk Bitcoin about, you know, not at the level once you really start going down a rabbit hole. You just want to get in a little bit deeper and not talk about like quantum computers or, you know, the latest FUD that comes out or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you can find some people that, you know, are on your level and you can hang out with, have fun with, and talk Bitcoin with all day, or just through the group chats, you know, I think that's some really good advice. I mean, I would definitely recommend that as well.
It's definitely a healthier
Yeah.
outlet than going on the rooftop and screaming Bitcoin to everybody and going around the office trying to get everybody on. You suddenly have that outlet. You're going, okay, I get to talk Bitcoin with people who actually understand it. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to get people to understand it so I can talk Bitcoin to them.
Yeah.
Have you been to any meetups or conferences?
I've never been to a meetup. I think I'm going to try to go to the halving party. That would be the first thing I ever do.
Oh, let's
Awesome.
go. Cool.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I think I missed Safedine was in my town. I messaged him right after I got the Bitcoin Standard. I was like, "Oh, this book's incredible. I've given it to my family. I've shown them." And I'm like, "When are you going to be in town next?" He's like, "I just left." It's like, "Are you?" That would have been. I'm like, "Okay, well, then
Wow.
I'll wait."
Have you looked to see if there are any Bitcoin meetups in your area? Because like, dude, go to one. Seriously,
Yeah.
don't wait for the halving party. Like,
Yeah.
go to a meetup.
There's,
I've
I think there's like coffee meetups every once in a while in my town, but I haven't. I have young kids, so it's very hard to kind of just go out for a coffee in
yeah,
early evening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
right.
definitely want to do that. It's been on my
Yeah,
list.
it's really good. At the same time, I was just at one in Bali. That was really awesome, by the way. But it was awesome and it was cringe, right? Because even at Bitcoin meetups, there'll be like a couple of Web3 people or Ethereum maxis or whatever. You know, like you always draw in that crypto enthusiast.
Yeah.
You got to try it. But anyway, you know, there were some awesome Bitcoin Maxi plebs there. We had a great conversation, and like time just flies by, and before you know it, you're like back in the car or heading back home, and you're like, oh, that went by way too fast. So yeah, I would definitely recommend doing it if you can find the time, of course.
I worry that if I run into one of them, I'm going to be very honest. I think I seen somebody at work
Nothing
once,
wrong.
and
There's nothing wrong with that, man. There's nothing wrong.
they had a chart out of some shitcoin, and I just was like, "Oh, you're a shitcoiner," and I started like saying it out loud without even thinking. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah, I guess this isn't Twitter." So I probably would call him out too.
Yeah, that's what I did, and then I thought I was talking to a maxi, but then that person turned out to be like not a maxi either, so
Yeah.
it might kind of made a fool of myself. But it's also a good reality check, right? Because even amongst Bitcoiners, there's a lot different degrees,
We're still early.
and we kind of project stuff out that's not always accurate. So I don't know. It's been yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I definitely recommend that part. Sean, back to you, dude.
Yeah, you should, dude. You should try to find a meetup close to you. It's always like when I was living in Salt Lake, they have a great meetup out there in Salt Lake City, run by a guy named Cody. And you know, when I was in Spain, I went to a meetup out there in Madrid. And you know, the one in Salt Lake was mainly maxis, and the one in Spain was like half and half, you know, a lot of crypto people, but still a lot of maxis. I went to one in Paris with Gigi, and that was cool because it was like 14 or 15 just maxis. It was awesome.
Hmm.
But it's cool, dude. It's if you can find one or start one in your own area. And I know you got a young kid, so it might be hard with the young kid, but it's fun.
So I'll start. I'm starting with him. You know, get
Yeah.
him kind of understand it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's already in the maxi club, so he's already good.
Yeah, or else, yeah.
He's gonna get
No
grounded
keys.
until he figures it
No
out.
keys for him if he no.
Dude, how much would that suck though? Like your kid's growing up, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Dad, I want to get some Dogecoin." You know, you're like, "Oh,
Ask Peter Schiff how that feels.
yeah." At least his
Yeah.
kid's on the right side, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't been following, but isn't Spencer Schiff like a Bitcoiner?
Yeah.
Even
Well,
though
who knows, dude? With
uh,
that family, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in that family. So
Yeah, I question a lot of why is he so devoted to his time to talking Bitcoin to sell gold? It doesn't make very much sense to me.
yeah, it's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So who knows, man? Koodge, it's been a pleasure having you on. Let everyone know where they can find you. If you're working on anything that you want to let us know about, or if you know, just sticking to the Twitter and having a good time, let us know.
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter. You can give me DMs. I will I'm source of resources. I'd offer anything. Definitely not working on anything right now in Bitcoin space. I'm still fiat mining. So yeah, otherwise, yeah, just I'm on Nostr as well, but I'm barely on Nostr. I find it so hard to load that on a phone, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Marcus, any final words?
Yeah, like just like with the meetups, man, time flies by way too fast. I would have enjoyed talking for like at least another hour. But yeah, Koodge, happy to talk, man, and good to have a voice behind the avatar. And yeah, thanks for coming on. I enjoy these talks a lot. Feels like you're meeting somebody for the first time, you know, even though we've been hanging out for so long. So that's always cool. And yeah, look forward to chatting some more in the group chat.
Awesome. Thanks again. And for everyone else listening, the Meme Factory podcast, we go live Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. live. Don't miss out. And then remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please like, subscribe, let people know about Bitcoiners Guide, that we got it going on with the guide for the Bitcoiners or whatever. You know, we're just having a good time. As for the Koodge,
don't forget to check out the Halving Party. Koodge is even going, man. So where can people find the Halving Party? At www.bitcoinhalvingparty.com. Or is that the wrong URL?
That's the correct. That's it. Get your tickets before they go up. And if you want a discount on your tickets, DM me. Maybe I'll give you a discount if I'm in a good mood. We'll see. Okay, and as for Bitcoiners Guide, episode 55 from the Koodge, from Clan Marcus and Big Sean Harris. We're over now. Peace.